You ever think your life's about to get easier, and then, bam, life laughs right in your face? That's how mine started. See, I just inherited a piece of land so big, it'd take you nearly an hour to drive from one end to the other. That's supposed to be freedom, right? But the very first thing waiting for me wasn't a welcome home sign. It was a bright yellow violation notice taped right to my front gate. Not subtle at all. Smacked on with cheap tape, fluttering in the wind, just daring me to rip it off and pretend none of this was happening. The sun was going down, the air had that smell, pine, sap, earth after rain. Should have been peaceful. Should have been my new chapter. But the words on that paper felt like a lock on my chest. HOA violation. Fine. $500. I just stood there. Not scared, just stuck trying to wrap my head around what exactly was happening. They were fining me for my own gate. On my own land. Just days earlier, I was nobody. Seriously, nobody. Office drone, forgotten by lunch. Now, suddenly, I'm Ethan Caldwell, proud inheritor of 1,200 acres, Silver Pine Ranch, thanks to my granddad. Only, instead of soaking up the open space, I'm arguing silently with a slip of paper. Some welcome. I bent down, read it again like maybe the words would change if I stare hard enough. Unapproved structure. They were calling my granddad's old wooden gate. A gate he built with his own two hands. A structure. 40 years that thing had stood, while deer wandered through and no one gave a damn. That's when I heard it. Do you have a problem? Cold, sharp voice from behind. I turn around, and there she was, pristine white SUV, window rolling down slow, like it was dramatic on purpose. Woman in her 40s, hair perfectly in place, sunglasses covering half her face. She didn't look at me like a neighbor. She looked at me like a mistake. This area is part of Ridgerist Heights HOA, she said, flat as a board. That gate's not on the approved list. You'll need to remove it and pay the fine. I actually laughed, a dry little laugh that barely came out. You mean the gate on my ranch? She tilted her head, smirked. Your ranch isn't part of this community. Even if it were, rules are rules. That was the moment I met Karen Whitmore. Yeah, the name fits. HOA president, in case you're wondering. She looked at me like I was her next little project, like I'd roll over just because she said so. She didn't wait for me to answer. Rolled the window up, drove off, left me there in the dust as her notice fluttered in the wind. City air hides things. Out here, there's nothing to hide behind. You breathe deeper, but you feel everything, too. I hadn't even unlocked the front door before I heard a gentle knock. Older guy, faded baseball cap, smile that looked tired but kind. Hey there. Name's Walt Mercer. Live over by Pine Ridge. Then he just nodded like he already knew my story. Let me guess. Karen. I nodded back. Walt's sigh sounded like he'd done it 100 times before. Welcome to the HOA, he said, but it didn't sound like a welcome. If you think this is bad, better sit down before I tell you the rest. So we sat, right on the old wooden steps, the ones Granddad built. Walt started telling me all the ways you can get fined here. Trash cans left out, hoses visible, mailbox the wrong shade of brown. Petty stuff. Then he told me about Evelyn Hart. 82 years old. Lived here over 30 years. Widowed. Forced out over a flower garden that didn't make the approved list. When Walt said her name, his voice dropped. Karen bought that house through a shell company. Now she rents it out for a profit. I stared out at the sunset. The trees were on fire with orange light, but I just felt cold. Not scared, just furious in a way that burns down deep. No one stops her. I asked. Walt gave a humorless laugh. Anyone who speaks up? They're next. That night, I couldn't sleep. Call my family lawyer, Graham, the same guy who helped with Granddad's will. Told him about the fine. Told him about Karen. He listened a long time, then finally said, Ethan, you didn't just inherit land. You inherited a secret that HOA's forgotten. If Karen knew, she'd have never taped that notice to your gate. I gripped the phone so tight my knuckles popped. First time since I left the city, I actually grinned. Next morning, Walt stopped by again. He stood at the gate, looking down the road like the past might come rolling up at any minute. I let him in, made coffee. He started telling me about the old days, when houses were few, fences low, skies so big it felt like another ocean. Evelyn's husband, Harold, built their house with his own hands. The front garden was a riot of daisies, roses, whatever made her smile. Years passed, Harold died. Neighborhood grew, fences got taller. HOA arrived. Then Karen. At first, it was polite notices, little warnings. Then the planting list appeared. Funny thing, the list kept changing, but somehow Evelyn's garden never passed. She asked for an exception. Karen wrote back, ice cold, not even rude, just inhuman. The fines came. Small at first. Evelyn paid until she couldn't. HOA slapped a lien on her house. A house paid off for decades. When the court papers came, she sat on her steps, hands shaking, just holding the envelope. In the end, she sold the house, moved into a nursing home past the next hill. Karen's shell company bought the place. High rent, new floors, and a garden. Ripped out, replaced with decorative grass that looked like every other yard on the street. Walt's story made the kitchen feel smaller, like the walls were closing in. Why doesn't anyone sue? I asked. Walt just looked at me, old eyes full of warning. Everyone who tried lost. Karen controls everything. Votes board the whole story. That afternoon, I drove through the neighborhood. Lawns like green billiard tables, roads spotless. But the people, peeking from behind curtains, wary, silent. Survival mode. When I got back, I found a voicemail from Graham. His voice was low, careful. Ethan, I went through all your family's old records. There's something the HOA's pretending not to know. But when you bring it out, Karen won't back down. She'll come for you. I watched the last red light disappear behind the pines. I don't want to fight, I told him. Just want a quiet life. He chuckled. For someone like Karen, your peace is a threat. Graham started explaining about a ground lease signed almost 100 years ago. There's a chunk of land smack in the center of my ranch that was never sold, only leased. And every road, park, clubhouse, everything inside Ridgerist Heights sits on that land. Lease expired this year. Under the contract, it all comes back to me. It was almost funny. Karen, queen of her castle, standing on dirt she didn't even own. Does she know? I asked. She knows enough to try to scare you off, Graham said. But she thinks you're clueless. That's why the fine. The next morning, I went to Graham's office. It smelled like old paper and pine. He had a map, yellowed, ancient, but the boundaries were clear. My land wrapped around Ridgerist Heights like a lasso. He pointed out the leased area, explained the contract again. Lease expired May 1st, Graham said. As of today, every road, every park, every bit of common area reverts to you. I just sat there, silent. The whole situation flipped in a heartbeat. The fine on my gate? That was nothing. Karen had built her empire on quicksand. Turns out, the HOA had gotten notice after notice. Certified letters. They just never responded. Graham figured it was denial or a cover-up. I pictured the neighbors. Thought about the young couple Walt mentioned, about Evelyn's house. The truth was nobody knew, not even the realtors. Title searches? They don't go back that far. Karen counted on that. I told Graham I wanted to do this the right way. Offer the HOA a new lease or let them buy the land. He nodded, but warned me. People like Karen see goodwill as weakness. We agreed. No secret deals, no private chats. This was going public, county office and all. As I left Graham's office, Walt texted, Karen's telling everyone you're just a city brat trying to destroy the neighborhood. Be careful. I looked at the sky, clouds drifting, sun breaking through. I wasn't mad, not really. I just knew, deep down, these people were about to see me differently. Karen called the cops to get me off the main road, my road. The showdown happened in front of the Ridgerist Heights sign. Sheriff Briggs was there, Paula from the county, and Karen, looking sharp enough to cut steel. She tried her sweet act, accused me of trespassing, harassing, you name it. I didn't say much. Sipped my coffee, let the silence stretch. She hated that. Paula laid out the survey map, clear as day, and told everyone who the real landowner was. Karen tried to wave it off, called it a legal fairy tale. Paula calmly corrected her. The lease expired May 1st. We sent certified letters. We have the receipts. Sheriff looked at me. You're not trespassing, Paula added, Legally, the only person with full rights here is Mr. Caldwell. Karen's face drained of color. She tried threats. This isn't over. I finally looked her in the eye and said, "Welcome to my ranch." For the first time, she had nothing left to say. Of course, she doubled down. 1 week later, a new violation notice on my gate. Another $500 fine. Unauthorized agricultural structure, whatever that means. I looked at that paper and understood. Karen would never accept peace. So I stopped waiting. That weekend, I put up fences, real ones, not symbolic. Ran them right up to the asphalt. Made sure every boundary was clear. Put in a steel gate, a sign, Silver Pine Ranch. Didn't lock it. Didn't need to. That night, my cameras caught Karen's SUV. 2 HOA tough guys, Chad and Brent, came with bolt cutters like it was a scene from a bad TV show. I met them at the gate, just as they were about to cut the chain. Late night gardening. I said. They jumped. Karen barked orders from her SUV. Chad got in my face, shoved me, tried to act tough. He swung, sloppy slow. I stepped aside, dropped him with a punch to the gut. Brent put his hands up. Karen told us to. I cut him off. Pick him up. Leave. Karen screamed, threatened, called the cops. But I had it all on camera. Next morning, Sheriff Briggs came by. I handed him the footage. An hour later, he called back. Complaint closed. You acted in self-defense. But Karen wasn't done. She started a rumor war. Said I'd turn the place into a pig farm, charge tolls, evict everyone. The fear was thick. People closed their blinds, stopped walking their dogs. One couple panicked when the bank froze their loan. I realized then, you can't put out every fire when someone else controls the matches. So Graham and I took it public. Sent out registered letters to every homeowner. Invited everyone to a meeting, neutral ground, facts on the table. Karen called it a scam, told everyone to boycott. But you could feel it. Curiosity was growing. The night of the meeting, the community hall was packed. Graham presented the documents, step by step, lease maps, emails. Karen exploded, tried to shout us down. Graham showed the proof, notices, financial statements. Money missing, special legal expenses, paid to a firm linked to Karen. People started whispering, then shouting. A young couple stood up, voice shaking. We bought our home based on your word. Now what? Someone else brought up Evelyn, the flower garden, the house that was stolen. Walt spoke about fear, about how rules became weapons. Graham ended with options. Buy the land, sign a new lease, or do nothing and risk losing access. Karen crumbled. She wasn't a president anymore. Just a woman outnumbered by the truth. Within a week, she was voted out. HOA dissolved itself. The community voted to settle their own road maintenance. No more paint color rules, no more fines. I bought the clubhouse for exactly the amount Karen had stolen, $58,000. Sent part of it to Evelyn. Helped the young couple sue for fraud. It felt right. But Karen, she didn't vanish. Walt saw her meeting with some stranger, a big guy, tattooed, black pickup, the kind of guy you pay to send message. Sure enough, one night, I saw him on my camera, sneaking toward the hay shed with a gas can. I grabbed my granddad's shotgun, circled around, caught him at the fence. He froze. I called the cops. Turns out, Karen hired him to burn my stuff, scare me off. That was the final straw. Karen was arrested, right in front of her neighbors, bathrobe and all. At the hearing, the community spoke, one by one, about the lies, the missing money, the fear. Karen tried to play the victim, but no one was buying it. The county gave the HOA 30 days to make things right. By the end of the week, Karen was gone, her board resigned, and Ridgerist Heights started to heal. Her trial was quiet. No victory parade, just justice. Fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. She was found guilty on all counts. Prison time. Full restitution to Evelyn. When the cuffs closed, nobody cheered. We just watched. Weeks later, I sat at the old clubhouse, now the Silver Pine Community Center. The old rule boards were gone. The pool fence came down. I replaced the fancy furniture with plastic chairs. People showed up, young, old, black, white, everyone. We had a barbecue, kids laughing, neighbors talking about weather, not rules. Evelyn's house was sold. Money went to her care. I learned something out here. Justice comes slow, but it comes. Sometimes you have to open the gate and let the truth in, no matter what it costs. So, I have to ask, what would you have done? If you'd been in my boots, would you have kept quiet or stood your ground? Where's the line between keeping the peace and demanding justice? I want to hear your story. Ever faced someone who thought power gave them the right to ruin lives? Tell me. Let's see how many gates we can open together.
Cảm ơn tất cả các bạn đã xem video.